Welcome to the Thinking Practitioner Podcast,
a podcast where we dig into the fascinating issues, conditions, and quandaries in the massage and manual therapy world today.
I'm Whitney Lowe.
And I'm Luchau.
Welcome to the Thinking Practitioner.
Hi, this is Luchau. When I was looking for a publisher for a book I wanted to write, I was lucky enough to have ended up with two offers, one from a huge international media conglomerate and the other from Handspring, a small publisher in Scotland run by four awesome people. And I'm glad I chose them. Handspring, as not only did they help me make the books I wanted to share with you, the Advanced Myofascial Techniques series, but their catalog has emerged as one of the leading collections of professional level books written especially for body workers, movement teachers, and all professionals who use movement or touch to help patients achieve wellness.
Hi, and I'm Whitney Lowe, and Handspring's Move to Learn webinars are free 45-minute segments featuring their authors, including a recent one from Till. So head on over to their website at handspringpublishing.com to check those out, and be sure to use the code TTP at checkout for a discount. So we thank you, Handspring. So good afternoon, Till. How are you today?
Hey, pretty good. Whitney, how about yourself?
I'm doing well. We're rounding out near the very end of the year today. We are actually recording this episode on New Year's Eve. And there's probably not a person around who's very happy to see 2020 leaving. So
who's not happy to see it leaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, or the other way around too. I know what you mean.
Yeah. It's been one hell of a year, and we are going to talk a little bit about some interesting things related to new beginnings, new activities, and new years this year, right? That's our topic?
Yeah, it's a New Year's topic. It's really, this is the time of year people think back on the past year, but especially start to look ahead for the new year. And whether you're listening to this here at the beginning of January or you're listening to it throughout the year, it's always a time to reflect and think, how do I want to be doing things? What could I do that's better? And often what comes up is, how do I take care of myself? Typical New Year's resolutions involve that often. I think it's like 55% of New Year's resolutions, they say, involve health behaviors. And so there's so much to say about that. And it's so relevant to our professional life, our professional longevity as practitioners, how we take care of ourselves, how we decide how we spend our time. It's also relevant to our work with clients, because so many of the things our clients come in with for us to help them with have a self-care component. It's so often that we see things in clients where we just go, if you just did this, this might be a whole lot better for you, rather than you coming to me to help you with that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to ask you your sort of take on this. That with that high percentage of things relevant to healthcare issues, why do you suppose that is? Why is that so high on all of our lists for resolutions and things?
Why are 55% of resolutions about health-related behaviors? Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I think it might be related to just some of the intrinsic challenges in taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Some of it's just the physical actions or physical behaviors we do that care for ourselves as living, breathing people.
Yeah.
So,
and your health is something that's always with you and probably frequently on your mind about things that you can say, yeah, I really would feel better if I felt better. So
That's right. Well, it's, the cost of not taking care of ourselves is huge too.
Yeah.
It does get in our way of enjoying life, like you said. COVID has been interesting because it's really shifted the landscape on a lot of this for everyone. And in some ways, I think people are getting better at taking care of themselves from the stories I hear with my friends I talk to and for myself. In other ways, the challenge is more squarely on us to do what we need to do for our bodies and our well-being.
Yeah, I think you're right. It certainly can cut both ways with that, because I've also seen a lot of, posts and things from people saying like, oh yeah, I'm because of COVID, I haven't put on real clothes in 3 weeks. I'm just wearing sweatpants and pajamas every day. And like, I don't care about, how I look to everybody else. And so, some of that can sort of slip into our self-care of taking care of ourselves some ways, I think too. That'd be the potential
cutting corners or loosening up around the norms.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting relationship between self-respect, say, and self-care.
Yeah.
But there's so much to say, Whitney, as you know, about how to motivate ourselves or our clients, how to do better, how to say, set goals and move toward goals and be accountable. There's so much to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than focus on those today, I thought, why don't we just talk about the excuses we use not to do that stuff?
Yeah.
So,
Because I think that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where the big challenges are for all of us. I think are the reasons and the rationale that we make for why we don't do those things, and
that's
I
right.
think learning more about ourselves and shining the light a little bit on our own issues and our own processes can help us be both empathic and compassionate with our clients when they're in the similar types of things, and maybe also give them some strategies for working on that may help them find ways to move through it as well.
Awesome. Great. Let's look for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a full-time project for myself, and if we can apply this to clients, even better. So
Yes.
ways to do
Yeah.
that. So the cost of not taking care of ourselves is huge. They say that 80% of healthcare cost is related to 5 basic behaviors that all have to do with self-care: smoking, drinking, eating, stress, and exercise. 80% of all healthcare costs.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. Yeah.
So that's the cost to society, but then of course the cost to each of us is huge too, because we don't feel good. We have earlier symptoms or earlier problems related to aging. They show up earlier if we don't take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We lose our satisfaction in life. We lose our productivity, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think if you look at many of the types of medical conditions whose primary driving factors are smoking, poor drinking habits, poor eating habits, and stress, we see lots of the big ones that are highly impactful healthcare conditions relating to those things as well. So clearly, that plays out with everybody's, not only just the public health facet, but everybody's individual well-being there.
Yep. And so then New Year's is a kind of reckoning time. People start to go, okay, I really would like to take better care of myself, because often the problem isn't knowledge, it's just behavior. It's actually doing it.
Yeah.
Most people know some things they could do for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but even if they don't, there's often the desire there to do that. So New Year's resolutions are a way that people reflect and sort that out and set some intentions. And that's good. Although it's hard, because there's a lot of research into resolutions as an interesting topic, and there's a bunch of it's been in the press, so you're probably familiar with some of it. But just 8% of resolutions make it out of January in terms of the behaviors.
Just 8%.
8% last past January. And then Strava, the exercise app, did a couple of years now in a row of analysis of their user data to see how long they see a big spike, around New Year's and people using their exercise apps. So then it drops off, and they've named January 19th this last year as the quitter's day, the day the most people quit and the most things drop off on their intentions. Interestingly, the year before that, it was January 12th. So we went a week longer.
We're getting better. Yeah.
Right. So, and who knows what it's going to be into COVID, but there's that effect.
Yeah.
We get a good start on it, but it's hard to keep going.
It is. And, I also wonder, and I've seen this certainly with myself as I look at, times when I've made those kinds of resolutions, just the sort of negative feedback loop that can emerge when you recognize that you're not going to meet those resolutions and you see your process starting to break down. It's like, oh, there I go again, not following through on something. And then it can have sort of negative self-repeating messaging to yourself, but I'm not any good. I can't keep up with this sort of thing. And that's detrimental for us all, I think.
Huge. Yeah. The toxicity involved of the disappointment in ourselves or the shame around that ends up in that spiral, that loop where it gets harder and harder to face that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of the mechanism there too.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, even, just another example of how hard it is to set an intention and follow through with it, like heart surgery, open heart surgery, which is not only a huge deal for the body, it's really invasive on your body to be cut open in that way and then put back together. It can cost up to $100,000. It's really traumatic, not only to your body, but to the people around you. And then it turns out that about half of the angioplasties have a restenosis that happens where they basically clog back up again. And
Yeah.
most of those are preventable through behavior changes. Like if we just changed our behavior, the arteries wouldn't clog back up again.
Yeah.
Turns out that 90% of people that go through that, say, bypass surgery, don't change their lifestyles after 2 years. So you look at it
Yeah.
years later, and there hasn't been a change in lifestyle for 90% of them in spite of that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that kind of stuff is, some of those things that they've come in with are so heavily ingrained, both behaviorally, psychologically, and some of them with, chemical addictions and things like that. I know with my dad, we used to joke with him a good bit in that there was this story. He had 2 heart attacks during his life. And after his first heart attack, when he was in for bypass surgery, snuck out of the intensive care unit to go smoke a cigarette. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? It's just like, and he knew it was not good for him to go do that, but he just, the chemical addiction was so strong, I think, with the nicotine.
Sure, that's a factor, or behavior addiction, or just,
Yeah.
we're all there in some sense.
Yeah.
That's a really dramatic example, but it's hard for all of us to
Yeah.
change those habits and those behaviors.
Yeah.
Like losing weight. 97% of people who lose weight end up getting it back in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine that a lot of that is both, I think a lot of those food things are behavioral things, as well as, there's metabolic factors, and people, a lot of people in our culture stress eat. I see myself doing it periodically, and just like, I'll definitely eat that because I'm like so stressed out, and I don't care if I'm just eating a bag of Fritos or something like that for lunch. And it's just poor choice things. And we'll get onto that a little bit later of like why we allow ourselves to do that and what our excuses are. But it's
so
question. Easy.
It's such, diet is such a tricky and deeply ingrained one because it's related to so many habits, behaviors, traditions, self attitudes, those kind of, soothing behaviors, all sorts of things.
Yeah. It would, and it's interesting, both like looking psychologically too at the role of, nurturance, food and nutrition, and the things that get ingrained in us from the very, very early stages of our life of food being associated with sustenance and love and touch and all those kinds of things. There's probably all kinds of connections.
Did you say touch?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, at your mother's breast milk, and the touch and the holding and caressing associated with eating and all that kind of stuff. So
and so then in this touch deprived time, where do we look for that sort of comfort or that sort of deep nurturance, as you said?
Yeah. So I was watching one of those shows the other day that was one of those year interview shows. They were talking about all the people who had, just everybody got into baking during this COVID thing because they were home alone. I'd say I'm one of those people who I didn't get into the baking thing. And I didn't end up having that kind of extra time around. But like there's a lot of food preparation that was going on in much more detail than I think there was under normal conditions.
There was, and both junk food or comfort food and ingredients for home cooked real meals. Both of those have gone up quite a bit during COVID.
Yeah, right.
So food is a place we're turning to for that, which some of us at the end of the year going, okay, maybe I could drop a little of that. Maybe I would exercise, but we're still winding up to our excuses. We're still getting closer to our place. I wanted to also, before we get into that though, just talk about how this is both in my own life, but also in my observations of the people I teach. But that healthcare and helping professions are on average worse at this than other groups. And
interesting.
I mean, we built getting some body work into our certification program, and typically that was the last requirement that the body workers would get done. That's not true for all body workers. Some are really good at making sure they're getting work as well as giving it. But on the whole, we tend to put it off. We don't tend to put that first. We don't put ourselves first, you could say.
And I've often wondered about this. I mean, do you think this is something more along the lines of the completely altruistic individual who says, I'll put myself last, I'll take care of everybody else first? Essentially, the bodhisattva of health processes or something like that. And wonder if that's a big factor of it. But the other thing too that's interesting is that we need to model healthy behaviors for our clients in many instances. And it's a challenge, and it's a potential problem, I think, to not be able to do that really well because they want
Right.
to feel like, hey, I'll do what you suggest if you're showing me that you're doing it too. That's
Do
the
we
whole team
walk our talk? It's
partnership
huge.
thing. Exactly. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just a little bit. I ran across some statistics when I put together our stress course that I went back to the other day and looked at again, and they kind of I want to follow them some more because it's really interesting. But a couple of statistics around that. About 10% more caregivers or people in the health professions say that they tried to make positive changes in their health in the last 5 years than the general population. In other words,
Oh, interesting.
we tend to try harder. We tend to say
Yeah.
we've tried we tried more.
Yeah.
But, and I don't wanna discourage us too much, by most measures, we're actually worse at doing it, at least in terms of self-assessment, other measures of kind of stress management.
Yeah.
We tend to be, about 10% worse than the average population in our self-assessment of our effectiveness, as our stress, as our self-care behaviors also tend to be worse.
Yeah. So why do you suppose that? Why do you think self-care is so hard for us? Why? What's the
Yeah, oh boy.
maybe it's ten
Yeah,
ten
we've
$10,000 question there, but
no,
yeah.
it's true. We've bookmarked a few ones in terms of the health the care provider thing. We tend to be helpful people. We wanna take care of people, and we forget that we're people. We
Yeah.
think we're the source, not the target of our care. So
Yeah.
for all those complicated reasons, both internal to ourselves and our own psychology and external to our circumstances and the lives we create, and then systemically as well and culturally as well. I mean, there was Audre Lorde talked about how, as a black woman, she talked about how self care for her was an act of political warfare. She says it's not self indulgence; it's self preservation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
there's a whole societal dimensions of this as well as very deeply personal psychological ones about am I worth it? Do I have the self worth? Do I think I'm worthy even of attending to or taking care of
Yeah.
myself?
So that's getting into a lot of individual self-esteem facets of this as well. Yeah.
One of the most relevant, I think, to me as I unpack this and work on this in myself over the years is the relationship to procrastination in general.
Mhm.
And Timothy Pychyl says he put a book out about procrastination, solving the procrastination puzzle. It's good. He doesn't see procrastination as a time management issue, which was interesting thought to me because I've done so much around time management over the years. I mean, ask me about time management systems, and I can go on for a while. And I love them
Uh-huh.
and I use them,
Yeah.
you know. But he says procrastination isn't a time management issue, but an emotion management issue.
I believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense to you too.
Yeah. Absolutely, because I think, lots of us have dozens of tools that we can use to help us manage time. I think that's not the big problem. I saw a post on a face on Postbook,
Yeah,
a post on Facebook the other day.
yeah,
Somebody said, like, God, look at how much stuff I got done while I was procrastinating doing this other thing that I needed to get done. So
yeah,
clearly it's not a matter of that management of time. It's just like, I don't really want to have to do some of these kinds of things. And,
yeah, right.
you know,
His
yeah,
definition, procrastination is a voluntary delay of an intended act, despite
yeah,
the knowledge that delay may harm us.
yeah. Now, I just thought of something interesting along these lines that
Tell me.
when we think of the individuals who are in many of the healthcare environments,
Right.
massage therapists, body workers, the people who are doing the things that we're talking to, a vast majority of them are working pretty much independently of an overseeing boss who's really
Okay.
riding you, let's say, all the time, like
Certainly
might be the
in
case in
private
a
practice.
low-level office work job. Yeah,
Mhm.
clearly you might have an employer or somebody else, but to a large extent, many of us are in charge of our own time and life,
Yeah,
and that gives us a lot more capability to procrastinate
that's
because,
right.
we're less accountable to ourselves than we are to somebody else,
There's this dream of independence that
Yeah.
motivates a lot of practitioners to
Yeah.
work on their own time and their own way, but that also means we're responsible for how we use our time and the priorities we make and how effective we are at doing the things that need to be done.
Yeah, right, so there's a double-edged sword there for sure
There is,
on some of
there
that,
is,
so,
and
yeah.
the things that don't feel good or that
Yeah.
might be uncomfortable tend to be the things I put later,
Yeah.
typically,
Yeah.
if it's all up to me.
Yeah.
That's the procrastination thing. It's like if it makes me a little uncomfortable, I'll tend to do the things that are clearly easy to do first, that give me some little hit of maybe productivity. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just, I'll eat like what did they call those guilt-free potato chips? I'll eat some baked potato chips or
Oh, right.
whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Yeah.
it feels good right now, and it gives me enough of a break from my feeling bad about the other stuff I eat that I'll do that first.
Yeah. I'll notice sometimes I will do the reverse and I'll say like, God, I really don't want to do this, whatever job it is. Maybe it's accounting or business bookkeeping or whatever. And I think,
Uh,
you know what, if I just got that off my plate, I would
yeah,
really enjoy the rest of my afternoon. If I just
yeah.
do this first, do this stuff that I don't like first, I will really enjoy my afternoon. And a lot of times I feel a lot better when I'm able to do that kind of thing. But it definitely takes some degree of discipline to put the nose to the grindstone to do those things.
The D
Yeah,
word,
it
discipline.
is. Yeah.
And so were you the kind of student who like got your homework done early?
Oh, yeah. Like, I was not happy, not comfortable, not getting my homework done. So, the self-discipline, this, like, leached over into, like, I had to make sure I, did my
Yeah.
designated 30 minutes or an hour-long practice of my saxophone every night and that kind of thing. So, I was pretty disciplined on that kind of stuff in
I've
school. So
I've always admired that about you.
yeah.
I
So
am the opposite.
uh-huh.
If I don't have a deadline, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And if it's not like up next to the deadline, it's not time yet.
Right. Yeah.
So, which is, I don't actually, I've come to peace with that to a certain extent. That is an environment in which I thrive, having deadlines and demarking those for myself are one way I manage my character style around that. It's a little bit hard sometimes on the people around me, which I feel bad about because, my staff or a, editor at ABMP or Handspring or other sponsor here, they've all had to deal with that with me, which is like, it's the deadline till we don't have anything from you yet. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I feel a little bad about that, but I work better under pressure. I work better when there's a deadline, and that's just one way I've learned to manage that.
Yeah. I noticed from a stress perspective for myself too, the flip side of being good at discipline is being too rigidly adhered to the disciplinary
Uh,
guideline of I got to get, X amount of time into this kind of thing today. And if I don't, then I start getting, irritable and frustrated and anxiety increases. So
yes,
there is the downside to that as well.
there is, and like all these things, I think what we need is a kind of internal bipartisanship.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Uh, so that for myself, the disciplinarian can get along a little better with the
Yeah.
spontaneity lover, the one who
Right.
just wants to follow my nose through life.
Yeah, exactly. And I will certainly credit my wife with helping me with that because she is certainly much higher on the spontaneity scale, and that is something that, the balance of bringing those things together helps us, like, okay,
Yes, that's great.
let's just go do this crazy thing, totally spontaneous sort of thing. So,
Well,
um,
yeah, I mean, we
you have to have those kind of
probably, I mean, my wife helps with that too. It's interesting to
yeah.
think about how we pair up, or our friends, our social circles ends up supporting those different aspects of us too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
That's good though. No, I want to do some more conversations on this, Whitney. I think I want to maybe even interview you. I can think of some other people. Robert Schleip comes to mind. I've already interviewed him, but he is amazing on the discipline and the kind of intentionality.
yeah.
This is a
I
really interesting question, though. How do we navigate? How do we do that bipartisan thing of that
yeah.
balance inside of us between the spontaneity and the
I remember
structure?
Leon Chaito telling me one time that, and I can't remember the number, so I'll misquote it, I'm sure, but he said he gets up and he writes 1,000 or 1,500 words every day before he does anything else. It doesn't matter if it's
Yeah,
crap. There's going to
yeah,
get 1,500 words written, and that's why he was so prolific in putting out such a large amount of written work over the years and other
yes,
kinds of
you did.
production, just because he could adhere to that kind of disciplined process. But
It certainly
there's
wasn't all crap either. He did some good stuff.
no, yeah, and so what you'd end up doing is like, yeah, you'll have some days of writing crap, but then you got a lot of stuff to work with to help, feed it out, edit it, make it turn into something good. So
Yeah.
that is helpful. But
Well, I mean, there's something about that, and this is kind of related to my last point I think I want to make before we get to our excuses. It's Dean Ornish's thing about fear of death and guilt being really bad motivators for people.
Uh-huh.
People don't eat better. He was a heart surgeon who came up with an amazing
Yeah.
plan for helping people with heart issues. He says people don't eat better because they think it's going to kill them. They eat better because they want to enjoy their food and enjoy life. And
Yeah.
so this quote he wrote down here, telling people who are lonely and depressed that they're going to live longer if they quit smoking or change their diet and lifestyle is not that motivating. Who wants to live longer if you're in
Yeah.
chronic emotional pain? So that's
That's absolutely true. I think that is
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
that's deep. That's like, okay,
Yeah, that
so
is so true. So
if it's life care, it's not just self-care. It's like, can I find a life that I want to live for and I want to take care of myself for? Yeah. It's not just
So it's almost, for the many people who jump onto the health club bandwagon on January 1st and everything, saying they're gonna do this, really might be missing the first and most important step, which is what do you want really, and what do you want to feel? Not like, why are you doing this because everybody says you need to, and you think you need to tell yourself to do that, but
oh, yeah.
what do you wanna feel like? What do you wanna, be like? What is,
Right.
what's your kind of goal that you're aiming toward there to
Nice.
be able to make it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a state-defined goal as opposed to an action-defined goal. How do I wanna feel?
Yeah, maybe.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
finding a way to operationalize that somehow could be pretty challenging, but it might end up being really important for them as well.
Yeah,
So,
it could be.
so what do you think,
We managed
we're
not
gonna
to
talk
talk
about
about
we're gonna delve
excuses.
into
What's our
our own
excuse?
personal things, some of our excuses.
Yeah.
I don't wanna talk about that right now. Yeah,
That's right. All right. So our top excuses for, not doing all that good stuff. My top one, I'm gonna tell you this, I gotta say it makes me a little nervous, a little vulnerable here. My top excuse is that I have too much to do to really take care of myself. I got deadlines, I got these things that I probably
yeah,
wait the last minute to do or whatever, but I got like a big list here, and I somehow in my mind, I find that to be the good reason not to go take care of myself and do the stuff I ought to do for myself.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a common one for so many of us. I will certainly say that that's high on my list as well too, and I think we can morph that into a couple of different ways to look at it. And I certainly have a lot of that sort of thing too. As we were talking about this, my sort of twist on that
Yeah.
same piece is I have what I sort of consider to be uh, the wellness care bank that
Uh,
I tap into, which is that I spent a lot of time when I was younger doing a lot of things about physical health, martial arts, meditation, all this kind of stuff that allowed me to get in really good physical shape. And I was eating really well and have always, eaten pretty well.
I
And
see
so
where
what I'll do is I'll say, I can take it, you know,
oh,
that's my thing. It's like, I don't have time to work on this right now and that's okay because I can take it because I've got a bank of health built up from the past that I can tap into to carry me over this difficult time when I don't
you
wanna do something,
you
so,
got your healthcare
yeah.
homework done early, and so you can take
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm really glad that I did a lot of that because I do think there is a carryover into later parts of life
yeah.
that, certainly has been helpful, but I gotta be pretty careful about tapping into that too frequently, so,
Well,
I just,
yeah.
went to the doctor yesterday and found
Oh,
out that I have a stress-induced eye disorder now that's coming from excessive stress because I have not been taking care of my stress levels recently. I gotta it's the beginnings of a macular degeneration in my eye, so
yeah.
and I'm on my computer all day long, so I can't have that kind of thing,
No,
so,
you can't do that,
um,
and as time goes on, we have to listen to those things more, or they'll assert themselves in ways that force us to listen to them,
yeah,
those kind of symptoms.
yeah.
Alright, so and
So what else you got?
I'll go on, but I just wanna stick up for myself and for you a little bit there and just say, all of these it's that bipartisan idea. We're calling them excuses and the reasons maybe we give ourselves for not taking care of ourselves, but they also, I think, represent, um, you know, something that needs attending to as well. That the fact that you actually take care of yourself, you got this bank, that sounds pretty awesome, and the sense of resilience that you could take it. And then for myself, I have too much to do. yeah, I can be enormously productive. That's the upside of that. In other words, I can just say,
Yeah.
I can manage and get a lot of stuff done. The downside for myself is, of course, that then I can neglect the things that keep me healthy and happy. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
Right.
related to my next one, which is I'll get to it in a minute. In other words, I'll get to my self-care in a minute. I'll get up out of my chair and go for that run in a minute, or do my bike ride. I got a bike here in my office. I'll do that in a minute. I just want to finish this thing I'm
Yeah.
working on now because I'm almost there. I don't want to lose my thought. And
Yeah.
that's a loop. Once that starts, it can be hard to get out of. And I look up and I'm embarrassed about how much time has passed. And I've been saying that to myself. Digital
Uh-huh.
deferral,
Yeah.
deferral looping.
Digital deferral. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just as soon as I get through binging this other Netflix episode, I'll be able to get to it. Right. Yeah.
There's that too.
kind of thing.
Right. Maybe it's
So,
not even like something
yeah.
productive. Maybe it's just like, yeah, this is just too interesting to leave behind for now, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. So it's deferral.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So for me, another one that I think comes up a good bit is others are more important to focus on. I'm one of those sort of caretaker kind of people, and I'm like, this sort of leaks into the I can take it sort of thing, but like I need to go do something for somebody else first. I need to do this for the dogs. I got to take care of this for my wife. I got to do this for some friends of mine. I got to do this for a family member. Those things are other priorities that come above me. So preferencing everybody else ahead of me is often one of those things that leads to my sort of procrastination and not getting those things done.
Well, you're speaking as an animal owner. I'm thinking like as a parent. We know this place, and there's just times we got to take care of the beings that depend on us.
That's right. Yeah.
But as an identity or as a habit, I can see how that would make it harder to work in the self-care there.
Yeah.
That I'm one of the beings too.
Yeah.
I had this idea. I'm going to get a dog, Whitney. I'm in a dog search right now.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm going to name it M-A-I.
Okay.
That's his first name. His middle name is going to be Self.
There we go.
Myself.
Myself. Yeah.
So that, I can just say, oh yeah, myself needs a walk right now.
Yeah. But you better be careful about that because you might be on the phone talking to me and saying, yeah, I'm playing with myself. So somebody maybe,
I'll be careful of that. Thanks for the warning. But there's this sense that, dogs, for example, maybe especially, but they do become our care objects, our surrogate care objects, where they really do remind us. I miss my dog because she would come and poke me with her cold nose and say, "You've been sitting there longer than I want you to, so let's."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like a four-legged furry reminder of your conscience saying like, "Hey, haven't walked yet today." It's like up and at 'em, buddy.
The small warm animal that is our body, like in was it Mary Oliver or somebody?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So what else? What other excuses are there?
We're getting through them. I only gave myself 3. I got a long list. My top 3. This is probably the most embarrassing one, but maybe one of the deepest. It's that basically it's the assumption that I make that whatever this self-care thing that I'm facing is going to be too much work or too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just sit here and enjoy this, like you said, Netflix or comfort chair, or even the comfort of this task that I'm doing.
Yeah.
This next choice, the self-care choice, is going to be too much work or it's going to make me uncomfortable somehow. Mm-hmm. And that's back to that procrastination thing being emotion management or pleasantness management.
Yeah.
To do something that's comfortable and easy now than do the thing that seems hard.
Yeah. And I'll have to say, like I mirror all of those that you've mentioned. It's I see a lot of those things happening for me too. One of a third one that comes up for me, and again, this is one I'm not terribly proud of either, is getting into this state more and more frequently these days. I notice as I get older of saying, "Oh, what the hell? It doesn't matter." It's like I'm getting older. It's not going to make that much difference. Oh, well, if I don't go work out today, if I don't go do exercise, if I don't take a walk, that's all right.
Yes.
Um, it's not going to make that much difference. So that one's dangerous because that certainly leads into
Yes.
making everything feel less sort of both relevant and like having meaning around that. Like,
You're letting yourself go is what I can hear in
yeah,
the back of my mind. At the
yeah,
same time, I just feel like stick it up for you, Whitney. I don't know
mhm,
why, but it's like there is a kind of acceptance that comes with getting older,
yeah,
and a kind of that's around aging itself. It's like, how do we, there's a way to age gracefully that does involve not letting ourselves go, but accepting the differences that come with getting older.
yeah, yeah.
How do you think about that in terms of what the hell, I'm getting older anyway?
I think, it's important to recognize that, there's sort of a mission behind what my life is about and who I am, and I don't want to give that up.
Uh,
And I have been a lot about taking care of other people my whole life,
uh,
but that also has to extend into myself. And I have to be honest and recognize that, there's a lot of times where I'm not going to say abuse, but take advantage of my own self in ways that I think modeling taking care of yourself is really the first step in modeling that taking care of the other people and our clients and things like that. So,
all right. So
um,
in other words, you're saying you could take care of yourself even as a way to take care of other people.
yeah, because I think that's certainly a way into developing that sense of compassion and what we were seeing and talking about earlier too, of just the relieving the guilt that people feel about not doing things, and you have to be compassionate about things just the same way that you would be talking to somebody else who's working and struggling with their own difficulties. I think
Just thinking
so.
something one of my friends said to me not too long ago. He said, if I treated my wife the way I treat myself, she would
Yeah,
have left me a long time ago.
right. Yeah,
So it's like, how can we
right.
be a better partner, a better spouse to ourselves, better,
Yeah,
life partner
yeah.
for ourselves in a way?
It starts at home. Yeah, starts at home. So what do we do? What are some things that can help that process? What do you think?
Yeah, before I get to the solution, I wanna just give out the honorable mention prizes.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay. Yeah,
But they, 'cause there's a whole lot of them. I'll bet you have some too, Whitney, but,
yeah,
uh, worthy candidates that didn't quite make the cut for top 3. Like, I don't know what to do for myself, and that's actually huge. Just a lack of information or a lack of being able to imagine what to do.
yeah,
I know it's time for me to do something. I just didn't think ahead, don't have it in front of me. What am I gonna do? Do I
yeah,
look for a yoga, YouTube, or what do I do right now? And that leads down another rabbit hole.
yeah.
Oops, I'm back on my phone.
Mhm.
Definitely a high contender. That digital distraction and we're up against some pretty big players in this arena, namely, I guess it's okay to mention Apple, Facebook, Google, and every other tech company, the designer, social media company that has evolved a business model involving getting us to use our devices and making them interesting and making them irresistible.
You don't think they intended that, do you?
Well, I don't think, to be fair, I don't think honestly they intended to have it be such a mess, and a lot of them are
Uh-huh.
trying to do things about it to greater or lesser extents. But I
Yeah,
think that is, I mean, when you have a metric that is based on clicks, pickups, or whatever, that's you're going to get good at that, and you're going to invent algorithms that get better at that and get beyond our ability to even understand how they're working. But they do get really good at
yeah,
catching our interest and getting us to interact with them.
yeah,
And so we're up against some strong competition for our motivations there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So what else hits our honorable mention
Honorable
there?
mention, it's raining, dark, or cold. I don't wanna go outside.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, do
Yeah.
that. It's a little bit harder to do when you live in a climate where it doesn't get bad weather. It's freaking like when I was living over on the coast of Oregon,
Uh,
that was easy
oh,
because I'm not going out in the rain and wind like I'm not going out there today. But
uh,
over here, it's a little harder to pull the weather excuse.
well, what I tell my son is, like, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad attitude.
Yeah.
So I
Uh-huh.
try to tell that to myself, but that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Yours, yeah, you mentioned that one, I need to take care of other people. Here's the one I love. I couldn't get logged in. I gave up.
Uh-huh.
I stopped.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let
Right.
me find my link or whatever.
Yeah.
Customer service kept me on hold too long.
Mhm.
Whatever, or I don't like being on Zoom so much. I mean, these are all valid, reasons to change course and to do something else. But it's interesting to watch how in myself and in the people in our learning community, how we come up against those as reasons not to do the things we actually kind of want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you? Anything else you want to stick on our honorable mention list?
I'd have to say, yeah, like on this whole honorable mention list, I'm with you like fully on all those. I can't think of another one off the top of my head that really also we haven't yet tapped into. So I think, I think we've covered a lot of those, and probably everybody else has got a few other things that we haven't thought of here. But that certainly covers the things that are most prevalent for me.
Yeah.
So what do we do about it? I guess what's
full
things
stage
that
of
can help?
contenders up here at the Oscars for excuses. We have a full stage of like award winners and runners
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And what do we do about this big scene? I got some bullet points there. I mentioned you and I both mentioned them as we went through the conversation. But having a plan, this is like a summary then. Having a plan really helps me so that I know I'm going to wake up, and before I get into my workday, I'm actually going to spend X number of minutes doing Y. So I actually know what I'm going to do, and I have it ready for myself. I don't have to go looking for that yoga YouTube when it finally occurs to me to get off my other device,
Do you think having something physical like a checklist of like, these are the things that I need to do today, and like when you can see that checklist, I had a friend who used to make to-do lists of things that she had already accomplished and then would like scratch half of them off just because it looked good, that you sort of got some motivation. Like, yeah, like I'm cranking here. I'm getting some stuff done,
Yeah, don't get me started on checklists. We could do a whole
Uh-huh.
episode on checklists. Like I said, I'm a time management, whatever it is,
Yeah.
a fanatic.
Aficionado.
Yeah, right. Not to say that it's necessarily all helpful. It's maybe I need as much help as I can get. But yeah, checklists are awesome. And the technology enabled checklists, essentially like your step counters and your, the different apps that help you monitor what you're doing is part of both having a plan. I'm going to make this many steps that day, and then knowing specifically how you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Another summary point, this is maybe the biggest one. It's catching that key moment when I could decide to do something for myself, or I could defer it or delay it. It all comes down to that very moment when, okay, I could stop now. That's the moment to do it.
Yeah. Right. And still, we're back at least to some degree, that whole issue of seizing that moment and being able to do something about it. And that's where the discipline comes in and certainly helps out.
Certainly.
Because you can kind of say like, okay, here is the moment. Like, all right, let's get to it. So.
Yeah, and breaking the good, bad thinking, knowing that it's always a negotiation between different parts of myself. The part of myself that does want to actually enjoy getting out there for a run, and the part of myself that really does want to stay here and get this project done on my screen. That they both have a point of view and that there's a negotiation involved. And it's not like I need to make a plan to suppress one or the other. There's a way to let both of them live.
Yeah. Yeah. That's valuable. And we need to I think oftentimes get in a place of being able to, I don't know if forgive ourselves is the right word, but cut ourselves some slack on some of those things.
Yeah. Like that self friendliness, or an actual friends, the social accountability, the actual people knowing that you're wanting to do something or doing it with you, companionship. And there's so many ways to do that, both in person, just to have friends and support socially, but also there's more and more ways to do that.
Yeah.
Dangerously, perhaps, on our devices. There's ways, there's meditation apps where you have a group that you're meditating with, Strava, for, et cetera.
Yeah.
We should check with them about being sponsors.
Yeah, I don't know Strava. I'm not familiar with.
I don't mean to actually give them. They did that interesting research, but I don't mean to. I'm in for an endorsement here, but they've done that research on when do people quit. They're the ones that did that.
Yeah.
For myself, deadlines, things that help me, get past the excuses, and intermittent fasting around self-disparagement. Just saying to myself, okay, for this morning, I'm going to skip my self-criticism breakfast.
Okay, now when you figure out like how to do that, that's what I want to know. Like how do you actually accomplish that? Because that's the ultimate goal of every meditation method around, is like, how do you stop the mind? How do you stop those thoughts?
Right.
So
maybe it's
tell me when you got that secret trick.
Yeah, no secret tricks, except maybe it's catching it.
Yeah.
Noticing when I go, oh, you lazy whatever, sitting there in your chair. yeah, wait a minute. I'm skipping that this morning. I can get to that later. I'm having a fast on self-disparagement right now.
I like that idea. Yeah. Fasting of self-disparagement. Yeah.
And then I'm going to supplement my diet, like you said, on self-friendliness. I'm going to take some supplements, dietary supplements of just going easy on myself, of not getting down on myself so much, or not,
And, you should, like, when you do accomplish some of those things, you should actually verbally, just the same way they tell you to actually physically smile when you're feeling down, because the muscles have a difficult time, in terms of being tied to the emotions, a difficult time continuing to stay sad if you're physically smiling with yourself. So get up and say, like, all right, that was awesome. Great job there, buddy.
Demarking, celebrating, acknowledging, those kind of things. Great.
Right.
But then the last one on my list, you can probably see it there on our outline. It's the one you said. It comes down to just doing it. It comes down to just getting out of the chair, shutting the refrigerator, finding something else, whatever it is that allows you just to do those things. That's what it comes down to in the end.
Just do it. That would make an interesting marketing slogan. I wonder if anybody's ever thought of that before.
Yes, maybe we can take it over if they haven't.
Right. Very effective they had for getting everybody motivated on that. So, So, well, I think we've tackled quite a few of those things. Yes. And hopefully we can have some different perspective on our challenges around resolutions and things that we want to have accomplished for the new year. I'm looking forward to
our excuses more.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So
you can give
I'm going to try.
Congratulations for making it through the podcast episode.
There we go. That's the first step. Excellent job, everybody. So we want to thank ABMP for their sponsorship. They are a proud sponsor of the Thinking Practitioner Podcast. All massage therapists and body workers can access free ABMP resources and information on the coronavirus and the massage profession at abmp.com/COVID-19, including sample release forms, PPE guides, and a special issue of Massage and Bodywork magazine, where both Till and I are frequent contributors there. So for more information, do please check that out on the ABMP podcast also, which is available at abmp.com/podcast, or wherever you prefer to listen on your favorite podcast apps. So thanks again to ABMP, also to Handspring and all of our other sponsors for their support of the Thinking Practitioner. You can stop by our show or site for show notes, transcripts, and other kinds of extras. You can find that information with me at academyofclinicalmassage.com. Until, where can people find you and those resources there?
Advanced-trainings.com. If you have questions or things you want to hear us talk about, it's a new year. We got some exciting topics lined up. We want to hear yours too. We want to work them in. Email us at info@thethinkingpractitioner.com, or just look for us on social media. I'm at my name at Till Luchau. How about you, Whitney?
Also can find me on social media there at Whitney Lowe. And you can follow us on Spotify, rate us on Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you happen to be listening, whether it's one of those metal cans with a string attached between it, whatever it is that you're listening to. Mm-hmm. Tell a friend, share the news, and don't make excuses. Go listen to the rest of the Thinking Practitioner episodes there. So
if you're going to make excuses, make them good ones and enjoy them thoroughly.
That sounds good. Well, we're looking forward to a great 2021 with everyone. Look forward to diving into some great conversations with you, sir. And we will see you all again in 2 weeks.
Okay.